that is how this was written, but mainly it was for European people, but we incorporated some lessons that African schools and learners and people in general can be able to learn. That is how we published Broken Calabash. It's Design Destiny. Being an African and high unemployment rate, and being a youth, I struggled so much with the issues of unemployment. I remember finishing university for 4 years, I couldn't get a job. So when I wanted to address issues of corruption, I wanted to address young people, how do they motivate themselves to overcome the challenges and become successful in life as an African. So even if this book was approved in America, but it was literally written for Africans, and especially African youth who are having challenges to go through the unemployment, corruption. So I addressed several of those. But it's also written from a spiritual background. So we have some Bible background that will guide you in terms of how this book is written. But it was literally written to encourage young people who are facing unemployment, injustice, corruption, and stuff like that. Here is a challenge. I don't like, and you'll be sad to hear this, I don't like, after I spent 100,000 publishing this book, for 3 years I didn't get 50% of that. Why? Because Namibians and Africans, they don't read. So you go and spend 100,000 that I could have bought a nice car or go on vacation to print a book that you believe is going to help Africans, and Africans, they don't read. And you can only develop when you read. So that is the challenge now. That's why we now go back to Europeans. If Europeans ask me to write a book, I would write it because they're going to pay for it. And Europeans, they read. So those are a couple of challenges we do get when it comes to printing books. They are very expensive, but for Africans to read is a challenge. I wrote this one last year. It's on marriage. I've been a marriage counselor for 10 years. The divorce rate was worse. Right now we are at 80 divorce cases per week. That is a minimum. We normally go to 150 divorce cases. So, being a counselor, marriage counselor, and many things that I counsel, I decided based on the experience of 10 years, being married myself as well as counseling couples, let me write something that will help marriages. Because many of us, you either marry because you are pressured by tradition. They say, Wakula, you are grown up, so you should get married. But you have no idea what marriage is all about. So people get pressured to get married because they are getting older, they are 30 years, they are 40 years. And then they discover in the marriage, it wasn't what I thought. And then they jump out. So I write 12 deadly habits that kills every marriage. 12 deadly habits. That if you find any of these habits in any marriage, this marriage is doomed to fail. And then I also don't just write about the problems in marriage, I write solutions. So there are also 12 powerful solutions to marriage problems. So it's called Marriage is for the Dead. You might wonder the title, why is marriage for the dead? Do dead people get married? No, of course the dead people don't get married. But the death part is about killing the habits. You sang some songs here. There's actually a verse in the Bible that says, you need to die to yourself daily and pick up the cross. So Jesus said, if you're going to follow me, deny yourself. The other version will say, die to yourself, pick up the cross and follow me. So, if you're going to succeed in marriage, certain habits in you need to die. You can't have a successful marriage and live like a single person. You still want to have many girlfriends, you still want to party, you still want to do things you used to do when you were single, but you want to be married. It doesn't work. So those things need to die. So these are the books we brought for now that we have. I have written other books like Broken Wounded Woman, where I talk about women who have been abused for a long time. Of course, Wounded Woman was written in a poetry form, but it explains about many women that are wounded. I've written a book on singles relationship. It's called Relationship CV. There I talk about several things that you should be careful in your singleness, what you do. Now we are busy, we have moved, like we're saying. Writing these books, it's cost money, they're not buying. So now we have started writing company books. Since us now and my friend, we are into vocation training, we are now writing company books. We write mostly leadership. So my next book will be on company development. So we have moved a bit from here because we know companies are going to pay, and we'll be training companies. So in a nutshell, that is who Anthony is and what he does. Thank you very much.
Well, they say if you give a chance to a pastor or a politician, you will listen for the whole day. I think this is evident here. His is very long, mine is short. Who is Augustinus Ngombe? I'm a typical village young man who loves Namibia and who loves Africa so much. Born, raised, went to school in the village. That's where I met Ms. Wooded. And I don't know what kind of a learner I was, but I should think I was one of the better ones. That's why she was able to reach out to me and say, come, let's help each other build the community. I'm really, really privileged. I couldn't say no to her because the only time I was able to go to town is when I was 14 years old, to go to town on my own. And the town is just 30 kilometers away from our village called Sinzogoro Kamade, where Lady Hamsen is situated. And 14 years, I was in grade 9, and 2 years after, Ms. Shivute came up with a project of UNESCO. I think I was one of the first beneficiaries. For the first time, the villager crossed something which we call Mururani on our side and Rushvelo from Yosana, to go south into the city called Wiyuk. We arrived at night. I saw so many lights because we're only used to the firewood, but now we saw so many lights. And I got that exposure, and it started opening up many other exposures because I needed to understand what the world is and what were the possibilities that lied ahead of me. It's because of those small exposures that made me to say, I do not belong to the village alone. I am the citizen of the world. So I need to deploy myself to the rest of the world. The rest of the world need to hear my story and need to know what I am about. So I went to two universities. One, UNAM, when I did my Bachelor's of Education honors, and I'm a biology teacher, maybe she influenced somehow. So I was a biology teacher for almost a decade. And I decided, I think I've served enough. I need a new challenge. So while I was a teacher, I also studied through Zimbabwe, a university called Midlands State University. That's where I did my master's in business administration. And I went ahead to also do a coaching to be certified. I'm a certified agile leader through Scrum. And from there, I participated in so many youth projects, including Mandela Washington Fellowship, of which I went to the United States last year. But I was in the state with the choir singing in 2012, before that. So what else? I was recently in Ghana talking about leadership as the fellows came from different African countries, and we're looking at what can we do to build leadership institute that will be able to help Africa to run its affairs. As it is now, it's a big challenge. The youth do not trust the older generation, and the older generation do not trust the youth. So there's a gap in between here. We are fighting for one thing, yet we cannot sit around the table and talk to each other. I'm sure it's also a challenge when you're at work, the experience and the novice teachers. So one think they are advanced, and the other one think they are more experienced. So now we want to find a balance. How can we leverage this? I wrote my first book, endorsed by one of the renowned professor, P.L.O. Lumumba. We launched it in 2019. This is the only book that is made. The rest of the books are gone. So whoever will get it, you are the luckiest person. Because it will take me time to read anything from now. I will just quiet and reflect. But it's centered on the biblical wisdom. My concern was Africa is rich. Africa has everything it takes. Africa has labor, because no part of the world that has the highest youth population than Africa. Africa have all the raw materials that you can think of in the whole world, but we are punching below our economic weight. I was wondering, what is the problem? Even Namibia is richer than Singapore in terms of natural resources, but we are poor our living standard. What could be the problem? I tried to investigate, looking at the traditional limits that we have, and I also looked at the cultural limits that we have, and I went back to discuss about biblical examples of what happens in the past and what is happening now. Times have changed, but the challenge remains the same. If you remember in the Bible, Cain and Abel were brothers. One was older, the other one was younger. But the older one was so jealous that he could be able to kill the younger one. Today in the society, sometimes the older generation thinks the younger generation has on a silver platter. So we are pressing on their heads to not be heard and not to rise, because they will take up our positions. So this fight is evident everywhere in any organization and at every level. So how do we leverage, learn from each other, the best that is in the older generation and the best that is in the younger generation? How do we combine it to form a very powerful force? That is the dialogues that I want the community to start. We looked at the truth. Are we really driven by the truth, or we are making up truth? Things which used to be evil are now something that is celebrated, and things that are truthful and good are demonized in our time. How can we go about getting back to the reality as human beings? So that is what leadership and knowledge is about. And 2021, I thought slavery and colonialism have affected us so much that our confidence is not working to our advantage. Because when you meet a white person, whether they are educated or not, you bow down automatically without thinking. But when you meet a fellow black, no matter how good they are, you belittle them, you look down to them, you undermine them, just because slavery we were put in one basket to compete for scarce resources. And when we hear about emotional intelligence, it's talked about from the angle of Westerners and non-African. I wanted us to understand that where we are coming from, we were once roots like apples or bananas, being sold from one slave owner to the other. And from there, we moved on, where our territories were decided somewhere in Berlin, where they decided, the Germans decided we are going to take over Namibia, the Portuguese said we are going to take over Angola, Mozambique, and you can name French took over Senegal, British took over Ghana, Zimbabwe, Zambia. So these things look small, but it affected our psychological stability. Because as you are seated here, what happened to our great-great-grandparents, it is still in our DNA. When you see a Finnish person walking into the church, they look holier than a priest and a deacon from your own village. How do we go about re-engineering ourselves to look at ourselves as important human beings that God did not make a mistake to create you the color that you are, with the skin that you have, with the type of hair that you have? So that's emotional intelligence. It also helps us to cope. How do we interrelate to one another? How don't you feel jealous when someone is doing well and you are admiring what they are doing? Do you need to fight? Do you need to hate? Or do you need to bring them closer and learn? How to admit?
It is about mind shift, work ethics towards progress. So we'll talk about mind shift, but work ethics towards progress. You are the most gifted people that there is in the world. Teachers. They are the primary of any development. You are more important than the president. You are more important than the doctor, than the scientist, than the engineer. A teacher lays the foundation for any national development. Namibia will not have any development unless the teacher lays the foundation. So never underestimate your contribution. There is a danger in the society where people don't value teachers. You go to other parts of the world, teachers are more highly paid than government ministers. Because other parts of the world understand that without the foundation of a teacher, you can't have a scientist. You can't have Anton standing here. You can't have Mr. Mind. So the principal laid the foundation why Mind is here. So if she never interacted or inspired Mind in some ways, Mr. Mind wouldn't be here today. Mr. Mind won't be able to sit down with ministers and government officials and negotiate programs internationally for Namibian development. It's because a teacher laid the foundation for him, for myself. So you are very, very important to national development and to the development of every person. Now, here's a burden. Here's a challenge. Last year, I was part of the task force to sit down in Safari Court to look at the curriculum development of the Namibian education. When it was being revised and looking at the challenges that we encountered last year. This year, UNAM finalized all the 14 regions to do a survey with the learners and the teachers to do a research and literally find out what are the challenges the nation is facing today. Of course, the research from UNAM was primarily focused on the dropout of the boy child. And they have given recommendation to the teachers as well as to the learners. We believe the report, when it's done, it will be sent to all the regions, it will be sent to the ministry. but I was there seated to listen to the findings as some of the challenges teachers are facing, as well as the challenges the learners are facing in terms of development. And these are concerns to us, whether it's policy making, whether it's financing or budgeting. These things are very important when the budget and the financing is going to take place. But when we're talking about all these challenges, we will never finish. Who comes to the solution? Who comes to the rescue where we are? I will challenge you today. I will say some things that are very difficult to understand, but they are for all of us. There is a saying that iron sharpens iron. You cannot go far unless you have found a reason to go far. So when you're talking about mind shift and work ethics progress, number one, we are looking at desire. You can write that down. The first thing is desire. Do we desire that this community develop? Do you have a passion inside you that there is a change in the way things are done on this school and in this community? Do you have that burning passion? Let me tell you what desire is. Desire is so powerful that it can connect the challenges here to the US, to America, to Europe, to Windhoek. Once you have a desire, desire brings resources to you. Resources, they don't come to people that have no desire. But we will understand soon that desire alone is not enough. But the first priority, if we are going to change our working ethics as teachers, we need to desire unity, we need to desire progress to move forward. If you do not have this, there are two types of people. I know many speakers say many types of people, but let me tell you these two types. There are one, what we call reactive. Reactive people are complainers. Every time they walk into the office, they will only complain what is going wrong. This is wrong. Maybe who did what? Who did what? That's called reactive. They are always reactive. They are waiting for problems to happen and then they will jump and go and tell everybody else. They are reactive. Reactive. Number two, very important. Number two types of people, we call them proactive people. Proactive people, they will always come to you with solutions. Proactive people come to you with suggestions. They will walk into your office, they will come to you, sir, all the challenges that I've seen, why don't we try what? Why don't we? They never complain, they always look out for solutions. They are called proactive. They look at the problem that is coming ahead of them, they already begin to plan the solutions for next year. That's called proactive people. And if you are either reactive, people will start avoiding you. Your co-workers will start avoiding you. Because why? Every time they see you, they just know something is wrong. They never see you as a solution. They see you as a problem identifier and never solve anything. So if we are going to change, Charles,
you're not asking what's wrong with your country. And you know, as Africans, we always like begging. You know, we are suffering there, we don't have money, we want to do this and this. And then he says, this rich man says, do you know the difference between America and Africa? It's one word, hope. Americans, we give our people hope. And it is the hope that gives value to our money. So an American will carry the US dollar as if it's the only money in the world. Because they are given hope to believe in themselves. Africa, we don't. How many people here, teachers, have hope for this school? Before we begin to look outside, go and look at the rest of the people coming and changing our lives. How many of us I've got hope for this school. Thank you for those hands. So it starts here. So as the rich man was telling this poor man, he says, listen, there is no magic in America. The only thing we do, we give hope to our people. They carry America and they carry our money, but it is what they have projected to us. You can untie that and put it there. Or is it fine?
Yeah, it's okay.
So, do you have hope for this village? Do you have hope for this school? So that is number one, desire. Number two, you can write number two. Got a few minutes, so I need to run quickly. Number two, it is after you desire, deliver. I remember the minister, the pastor, the minister of education. What is his name, sir?
Abraham Yambo.
He used to go around schools and say, deliver, deliver, deliver. And we always go, deliver, deliver, deliver. I remember when we had one of the last lunches with him and we were talking, seated in Windhoek and telling us plans he had for education. Plans. So the second thing is that you cannot just desire, you must work to deliver. Deliver. Put up a work schedule. If you're going to sit down and mentor students one by one, if you're going to say, I'll take my afternoon, instead of me going home and sit under the tree, let me take 2 hours in the afternoon, sit with 10, 5 learners, talk to them one-on-one. Believe me, if we can decide to do that, you'll begin to see a change. And the change that you begin to see, it will bring people from far. They will begin to share, there is something happening in Otapi, let's go and see. People begin to travel. Because why? Somebody from here has decided they are going to do what? To put some work into it. But here's a challenge. You cannot develop anybody else if you haven't to decide to develop yourself. I'll say that again. You will never have effort to help anybody if you cannot help yourself. Me and him were friends and we compete in a very healthy way. So he's done something, I will be chasing, my friend Mr. Mike did something good, and I'll go and ask him, how did you do this? And he'll tell me. I said, I'm going to do it also. So we are friends, but our network is to help each other to grow. As teachers, do you sit in a boardroom somewhere under the tree and just discuss how you're going to help each other? Just to tell each other, okay, I saw like a simple course online. When we were driving, he was just telling me, I was telling him, I want to do a course on monitoring and evaluation. And he just told me, no, I know a university that can give you the course for free. Hey, when we're coming, can you have such conversation? Or do we just sit to gossip? Did you see how she looked like today? Those people there. Is that all we should sit and do? Gossip? As teachers, how are you going to inspire the learners? If they are passing by, you are seated under the tree and gossiping, and you want them to change. How are they going to change? If you don't develop, do you have a desire to retract? I say it again, you can't change anybody if you haven't changed yourself. Just to say, ask for a 2 days from the principal. I need to go and see this school here. I hear they are doing well in my subject. I need to go and hear what they're doing. Exposure. Exposure. Do you know exposure is 10 times than a degree? The reason we travel is that we learn more from other people and other places more than you can learn in a classroom. The 4 years of a degree will be nothing compared to me just traveling to 3-4 companies and learning. I will learn more than the 4 years in a degree. Exposure is very important. Take your time yourself and see other places. How are people doing it? Believe me, my fellow teachers, you don't have to speak like me. English is not a level of intelligence. No. Nobody you can speak. We have sat with my friend Mr. Mind in a boardroom where people are speaking typical Shwambo and their wisdom. We come out of there and be like, that man spoke very well. English is not the level of intelligence. A person can speak the way I'm speaking, but is not intelligent. You can still speak your English, but decide to develop. Invest in the knowledge. You are a teacher, you are impacting lives. But if you memorized one book 20 years ago, and that's the only thing you know, nothing has developed in the head. What are you going to tell the learners? Something new. As you enter the classroom, your learners already knew the first word you're going to say. No. Why? Because you yourself have not grown, and you are the first person. We kept saying the whole night why Mr. Mines was taken on a tour by Meme there, the priest. It was some of the places, it was his first time to see them. Why? Because the principal decided I'm going to take these kids somewhere. Because of taking the kids, something triggered in mind. I had my lecturer at UNAM Memeshariev. I've never taken a plane in my life. I didn't know inside the plane how it looks like. She would have decided, no, this boy is from Zambia, near Moshwambo. Let me leave him. Meme put me in the plane, took me on an island. You know, I saw the first time the water that massages the body, not human beings. You enter inside the water, it's called jacuzzi. It begins to massage me and say, hey, Meme, you have done well. From that day, every month I'm in the plane. Why? Because one person decided to show me the possibility. One person that is not even my relative decided to put me in the plane, take me on an island. Today, every month I can be in a plane going anywhere. Because one person, some of the students are waiting for you. Some of those learners, they are waiting for you as a teacher. Just to show them something small. It's not my mother who did it, it's not my father. Just a teacher at the university saw this boy, he has potential, let me put him in the plane, one attending a workshop somewhere. I let him. But if she wasn't on that level of development, how could she show me? How do you give what you don't have? How do you give what you don't have? If you don't want to grow as a person, you don't want to upgrade as a teacher, how are you going to give me that motivation? I will make sure once the report is out, I will send it to them so that we see what learners we are saying. The learners have challenges, but teachers also have challenges. And the research we did for UNAM, which will be going to Ministry of Education. Oh, thank you. This one is not working, so you can just remove it. The research shows that there are some challenges that teachers need to overcome, which means teachers should desire also to grow, to expand, so that learners can see. Again, I'll share you a story. When I was in grade 9, the reason I loved history, I'll repeat it again. This history teacher He was our history teacher. So when he's teaching us about Shaka Zulu, South African history, this guy used to travel. He would go to South Africa. Look at, when he comes to teach, he never used to use a book. He would say, I went to KwaZulu Natal, and this, and he would describe things, and things are in the book, but he went to see them. And he would teach us in a way that gave me, I say, man, I love this thing. As a student in grade 9, I can't forget the lessons I learned from that teacher. Why? He had a desire. He had so much passion in his subject that out of other teachers, I got hold of the passion he had. But he was able to go an extra mile. He didn't just say, Amen, I finished Wayunam, Kamana, I'll just be here. No, this guy would go places that are historical to come and teach us. And when he teaches us, he used to say, I was there. He would mention a street in a book, and he would tell you how it looks like. I am not saying go and spend money and do the same. I'm just saying, you need to have a desire to develop so that your learners can develop. It starts with you. Just a small teachers retreat. Let's pack together, book a campus. Let's go to Swako. Go and sit next to the sea. Watch it, have some discussion, come back. Small things like that. Small things like that, they will begin to help working together as a team. But if after here we are going to sit under the tree on those WhatsApps, did you see the Mele today? Did you see the Tate today? Believe me, you're not going to go anywhere. This school will be like this for another 30 years. It won't develop. Deliver. Plan, I have this and I'm going to do it for the next how many years. The teachers that impacted our life, they had goals, not for the school, for themselves and for the learners. Those are teachers that changed our life. They had goals. Goals. Deliver. Number 3, the goal. I got to minimize this quick. Work ethics to deliver. Number 3, you're going to deal with deserve. Now, this is a very interesting component. Many people, they think because they desire it, they deserve it. Simply because you desire promotion doesn't mean you deserve it. I'm telling you, simply because you desire a salary increment, no, they should increase our salary, it doesn't mean you deserve it. I desire a Mercedes-Benz car, does it mean I deserve it? No. Believe me, I desire a $10 million, I desire it. Does it mean I deserve it? Deserve is a word that comes after hard work. That's why I put the word deliver. Only after you have delivered, people will look at you, she deserves it. She really earned it. After you have put in the work, then we can say you deserve it. We are in an era where people just desire things. And they want to go and demonstrate. And I'm asking myself, do they even deserve it? Because the word deserve means you have worked hard. And everybody has witnessed your hard work. And by the day you receive it, nobody will be jealous. They say that woman, she deserves it. She has worked for it. She has sweat and suffered. So, if I were to ask you, is your salary equivalent to your work ethics? Most of us will jump our heads. Yes, it's even low. Are you really sure? No. I want to be practical with you. I've never worked in the government. I work in private sector. And in private sector, I get paid per hour. 90% of my life, I work in a private sector where you don't wait for a salary on the month end. The hours you work, we go to work, calculate them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This 1, 2, I'll tell you, I'm not hiding. There was a time I used to get paid $200 million per hour. And they used to say, you can work how many hours you want, by the end of the month, you can get your 50,000. As long as the hours are short. That's the world I work in. So you are privileged. You can just wait for month end. So what am I saying to you? It's for yourself. Don't wait for the government to say, I will work, deliver. One day, I'll look at the children. I'll look at my life and I'll say, I deserve it. Everybody, no, I deserve nice things, I deserve. For my elders who have been even married for a long time will tell you, simply because you desire a good marriage doesn't mean you deserve a good marriage. Because why? The mothers will tell you marriage is hard work. Yes. I just brought that in for free. Okay. We can go back to the other side. But you need to deliver in order to deserve. We are done with the learners. Right now, it's you that we are talking to. Believe me, we were in that conference. There was a lot of bloodshed. Teachers are seated beside, learners are sitting there, they're pointing fingers. The learners are saying, teachers! And then the teachers are saying, learners are not doing their work. The bloodshed will never end. Unless each one of us stand up and take responsibility. Each one of us. Each one of us. So, right now, if they fail, do you know one thing about me? If I've done my part, and you haven't done your part, and you have failed, I always sleep in peace. I sleep smiling. I never carry a guilty conscience when I've done my part. That's it. Most of us, we can fail to admit it. The reason you have sleepless night, somehow your sleepless night tell you that you haven't done your part. So it's very imperative to each one of us to develop ourselves. Work ethics for progress. Mind shift. Nobody's going to do it for you. I can be here today. Let me announce to you. After I leave today, some of you will be motivated for a moment. But after I leave 2 weeks from now, you'll come back the same way. Unless, beyond this discussion, you take a list of responsibility, as I was saying there. Discipline, it doesn't feel good. When you are disciplined, it doesn't mean you're going to be feeling good. But you're going to work because you have goals to achieve. Not because you feel good. If I have goals, I will not wait for the principal. No. In my class, I will implement programs for my student. I can consult with the principal just to give me an approval, but if I have goals, please, I am begging you. Some of you take up even afternoon classes for mentorship. You ask learners, how many of you are interested just to be talking to me? In the evening we'll read, afternoon we'll read up a book, a passage, and we'll discuss. How many of you are interested in mathematics in the afternoon? In the afternoon we'll just take 30 minutes or 1 hour, we'll solve one mathematics, inspire each other, and we'll go home. You are not just doing it for the salary. You're not just doing it for the learners. My former lecturer was a teacher for 20 years, and he used to say, Anton, if a teacher doesn't become careful, they can become rotten. I'll say that again. Miss Brown at UNAM would say, Anton, I was a teacher for 20 years. If a teacher doesn't become careful, can become rotten. I say, Mom, what do you mean? He says, there's a tendency in teachers to be complacent and not to develop. You get used that the money will come. I don't need to read any book. I don't need to learn any new skills. As a result, pardon me for my English, there is what we call a river and a reservoir. A reservoir is the place where water gather and they get rotten. A river is a place where it receives water and gives water to the other. A river, only water passes through. That's why it's called a river flow. A reservoir gathers water and the water gets rotten. As a teacher, if you don't develop, you become a reservoir. You gather things and then you are not flowing. You become having a stinking attitude. You will see others who are busy with the project and jealousy develops, anger develops. Because why? You are not growing, you are getting rotten. I'm sorry, this is a hard language. I speak to you today. The message I speak to you, I can't use it next week. So it will force me, he knows. Every time I go in the car traveling, I'll get new books to read. Because why? If I don't grow in my knowledge, I'll begin to get rotten and I'll stink. So you begin to see others with a very bad eyes because inside you are rotten. You are not growing. Knowledge is about cleansing your mind and your soul, so you can refresh others. You need to grow at any cost. Nowadays, if you can't read a book, there are audio books. Download an audio, play it in your head. It will do something. If you can't read books, download audio. You have all the iPhones. You have internet, super aware gig every week. Download something that you can listen to. You don't have to do what I do what you love. If you can't read, audio books are for free on the internet. But listen to something every day that will change your mind. Very, very important. And then I'll deal with the last one, and then we'll close and give to Mr. Mine. Are we okay? Yes. Do we know are we okay? Yeah. Okay, great. At least those are parts I learned a little bit. My wife, she has not been doing a good job. Yeah, she's quite humble. She's not doing a good job. I've been 10 years. This man is still not doing well. They say the language you're supposed to learn it by the people. It's supposed to be very fast. Why mine is too slow? Okay, great. So I'll talk about dominance. That is my last. So once you have decided you have a desire, you have delivered. Now that you deserve something, you need to dominate in the area of your expertise. I do sing sometimes with Dinafs and the other artists. I do many things. But I remember we normally do this gospel songs as all the artists in Window. We will be 200 artists in one song. And then all of us were going to sing. And then after we're going to sing, we'll sit in the hall like this, play the song. Any part that doesn't sound good, we delete it. It means you are deleted if it's your part. Yes, if you have watched some of gospel songs where many artists are singing, that's what we do. So we let you until out of 250 we remain 12. And we say, we are satisfied. These ones can go. What does it mean? Life in general, it will not give you things on the silver plate. Nobody will come to you and just hand over things to you. If you are a mathematics teacher, how much? I do lecture at some college, I do lecture English. I was telling my students, I said, do you know how many books of English I read just to prepare for one lesson? I was asking them, I said, you know, so one day I brought all the English books. I would read from poetry, English books, literature, what? I said, just for one lesson. Even if it's in the syllabus, I used to tell them, I go beyond the syllabus. The minimum of the syllabus is for you. As a lecturer, I make sure every lesson, when I'm teaching English, I have minimum 5 books. And guess what? When it comes to the syllabus, my learners, they just walk through. Why? I have given them, even outside the syllabus, a bit advanced. That's what I do. So, why do I do that? I have to make sure that if my learners in this school, in this college, are going to compete in an interview with other learners from another college, my learners should always have the upper hand. They should win. That is not on the school, that is on me. Do you know if my learners go out and win, the pride I will have, like, hey, I've got so far 100 learners who are on top. Do you know the pride I will have? Just me as a person, especially men. I'll be like, I'm doing well. Why? Because I set goals on me. I expand on my reading so that my learners, if your learners here at St. Charles are going to compete with Windhoek High School, I want you to imagine this. There are some regions in the villages that are doing so well compared to regions in the towns or schools in towns. And some of these schools in the villages, they don't have infrastructures and resources like those in Windhoek. I'll tell you, I live in Windhoek, my kids are in Windhoek. Some schools we need to pay, even if it's government. One of my sons goes to government. It's compulsory. We pay at that school almost every 3 months. We pay 500 contribution. So it means beside what they get from the government, these schools, they have much. Imagine every parent, in every 3 weeks they will come up with like a very small mini program just for us to be paying those hundreds, those 500s, and we are paying them. Because why? If my kid doesn't go, his psychology gets affected. So as a parent, I am forced to pay. Because if my kid hears the kids were having, even if it's ice cream, and he wasn't there, psychologically my kids gets affected. So I pay. But guess what? Still, there are some schools in villages are doing better compared to those schools in town. Why? Because those schools in the villages, they decided will not be left out. We are going to dominate. Whatever it takes. You need to dominate your area. I want you to think. Mr. Man, you can close. I'm done. Thank you. Come.